We are here today to send a loud and clear message to Idaho lawmakers who repeatedly ignore and marginalize gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender Idahoans. February 20th marked the third consecutive year Idaho lawmakers turned their backs on us, our families, our friends, and our allies who voted not to print the Idaho Human Rights Amendment. The amendment would have made a statement that we would not have to live in fear of losing our jobs or be evicted from our apartments or barred from a sick loved one's bedside. But instead of standing up for justice, instead of defending those who carry the heavy burden of bigotry, the Senate State Affairs Committee killed the bill, and along with it, any public debate. Hope is not lost. There were several lawmakers who spoke up in support of the amendment, and we'd like to recognize them here today. These honorable and heroic lawmakers include Senator Nicole LaFavor, Charles Pointer, Senator Jim Carter, and it was Senator Kate Kelly and Joe Stenger who were the only ones to vote yes to print that vote. Let the governor hear your applause. Those who stand up for us know, just as we do, what it's like to start a new job, or especially to know in these hard economic times. But when we get hired, what happens? We end up having to work twice as hard to prove that we deserve that job, but it doesn't stop there. No, we have to be careful about how we talk on the job, knowing that we can be fired simply because of who we are. We avoid the pronouns that give away our relationships, that leave us vulnerable to those who would use that knowledge about our personal lives to discriminate against us. And you know, they have the right to do that, because our lawmakers have refused to bother to publish or even discuss the amendment. I say enough is enough. And it's time for justice and equality now. I consider myself married, and those lawmakers and self-proclaimed defenders of family values may not agree with me, but I have a news flash for them. I have been married since my wedding 12 years ago, and I wear this wedding band as a sign of my love and devotion for the woman I love. Idaho, I am married, and we are a family, and we have a son that we have raised together that we are proud of every single day. And with this band always comes questions, but not about my wife, about my husband. When I first moved to Idaho 10 years ago, I started a new job in a family-owned IT business. And in spite of the fact that I was already wearing clothes I wouldn't be caught dead in today, and if for those of you wondering, it was not a dress. So here I was in Idaho, a new job, a new beginning, and a whole new reality that was anything but real. When my new boss's wife innocently said, "So what does your husband do?" my stomach jumped into my throat. And it took me back to the time when I was in my 20s when I did lose my job because I was a lesbian. Friends, once that happens to you, you never forget that possibility that that could always happen no matter where you are. If I said I didn't have a husband, then I would be met with questions like, well, why do you wear that ring? Who's your son's father? The questions are not by themselves malicious or mean, but if you don't have the correct answer, you could lose your job. When many of us hear these questions, it's like a speeding freight train heading down the track and you can't get off, because we know what's coming. But we are survivors. So I did what many of us have become very skilled at doing, and I skirted the issue. I didn't lie, but it was really awkward. So in every one of our lives, every day, in each moment, with every question, we are forced to make a split-second decision to either tell the truth and live honestly with dignity, or to sadly lie just to protect our families. Not one of those lawmakers that voted against printing the bill understand the pain or the heartache or the internal suffering that comes with having to betray yourself and the people you love just to make it through the day. As long as we have lawmakers who turn their backs on thousands of LGBT Idahoans and give their full attention to the frauds that defend family values, we will not experience equality, justice, or fairness. And that is the reason, and many more, we need to pass the Idaho Human Rights Act amendment. Before I go, I want to share a personal experience with you that might help put some of this into perspective. A few years ago, we took our son to a local emergency room after he was injured. And after the doctor examined him and went to talk to us, he looks at my wife and I and says, "Which one of you is the mom?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, both of us." "No, really, which one of you is the mom?" I said, "Both of us." And after the third round, he looked over at my son in pain on that gurney, and he shook his head yes, like, "Yeah, they're my moms." And it was only at that moment that this doctor reluctantly validated us as parents and told us what we needed to know about our son's health. Had I been a man or she had been a man, that doctor would have never had the nerve to ask us about our parental status. And that is why we need to pass the Idaho Human Rights Amendment. Neither Idaho state law or federal law provide employment, housing, education, or public accommodation protections based on sexual orientation or gender identity. However, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Montana, they all embrace diversity, putting the gem state to shame. Unlike religious extremists who would like you to believe, the majority of Idahoans and the majority of America agree that we have a right to earn a living and we have a right to take care of our families regardless of sexual orientation and gender identity. Just last year, BSU's Social Science Research Center reported in their public policy study that 63%, yes, 63% of Idahoans believe it should be illegal to discriminate against gays and lesbians in employment. That is why we need to pass the Idaho Human Rights Amendment. It is time for Idaho to shed our long-standing stereotype of a state that tolerates hate. And I am here with you today to say we will not be silent any longer. We will not go away. And sooner or later, we will have our day. Because we will come back louder and in greater numbers year after year after year until our lawmakers, our elected officials, represent us as constituents and do the right thing and pass the Idaho Human Rights Amendment. Thank you.